disaster. So disaster risk reduction acceleration is one of the theme of this conference. So as we know that the disaster risk reduction has goals to achieve. And if we have not achieved those goals, then we need some kind of acceleration in that matter. So therefore, there is an urgency. Considering that urgency, we share our practices with you guys, and there will be a workshop at the end, which our facilitators will help you to practice it. Those who want to have a certification, we will be sending the certificate of participation in this matter. We have a quite big number of participants online because everybody cannot join physically. So, you know, in these days, the mode of presentation is hybrid type. So, session objectives. We have three sessions, and we have the objectives here. It's about introducing strategic guidelines for developing multi-sectoral, inclusive, and risk-informed urban and rural development plans. So when we talk about the inclusive, it include all the 360-degree coverage, which means gender sensitivity. We have also the elderly. We have special needs people. So we include everyone in this planning process. So our main motive is the participatory process. All three projects gone through with the participatory process. Objective 2 is enhancing collaboration and knowledge exchange. It is all about exchanging our knowledge from one culture to other cultures, and you will see the variety of researches done in different continents. And if you look into planning from Germany to Pakistan, then there is a planning from Australia going toward Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. And this variety of cultural interaction and indigenous knowledge that have been used by different countries in their national contexts have been discussed here. And we have also institutional capacities. So some of our projects have done their institutional capacity building. So in the course of our project, we have provided people some kind of capacity building. The last one is equipping stakeholders with the actionable knowledge. So there are workshops and other things. So now I will give the floors to the first our session speakers. I'm the moderator of the speaker, and you can see on the board that there is a Dr. Dina Magnaye and Dr. Ashraf Diwan from Australia, Cotton University, Professor Dr. Shakir Mahmood is from University of Engineering and Technology, Pakistan, and Professor Dr. Indrajit Pal is from Asian Institute of Technology. So may I give the floor to who want to be volunteer? Okay, I will give floor to Dindina to present their projects objectives. Please go ahead. Introduce your project.
Okay, good morning. The first project that we have lined up is the research entitled Linking Disaster Risk Reduction and Land Use Planning, the case of informal settlements in hazard-prone areas in the Philippines. The project commenced with a definition phase from 2019 to 2021, followed by the R&D phase from 2021 to the present. The overarching goal is to make resettlement and upgraded sites and consequently the city region as a whole to be more resilient by mainstreaming upgrading and resettlement strategies in urban areas. It deals with disaster risk through spatial planning complemented with risk governance mechanism. It also targets urban informal settlements and informal settler families in high-risk areas. Resilience is being strengthened together with the effort of looking for the most suitable, sustainable, and socially acceptable solutions for informal settlements, families in endangered areas. Lastly, it intends to adhere to a mutual transfer of knowledge from the Philippines to Thailand and Vietnam and vice versa. So collaborating to implement the research project are universities from Southeast Asia and Germany. There are work packages. There are 5 work packages. Work package 1 is on creating an evidence basis for relocation and upgrading by modeling trends in urban development. And this is by producing key drivers, growth model, assessment of growth, and suitable lands for relocation. The second work package is on resilient upgrading that covers co-designing and co-producing solutions to sustain local livelihoods and improve community resilience. And this is to generate upgrading typologies with temporal and spatial dimensions, metro-wide case selection criteria, and focal sites portfolio, as well as coming up with pilot designs for upgrading strategies on resilience upgrading guidelines. The third WP or the work package is on resilient retreat that will focus on tailoring participatory resilient retreat solution throughout local, provincial, and regional level. The fourth work package is on mainstreaming, upgrading, and retreat that will integrate results of disaster risk governance in spatial development at the national, regional, and local level. And the last work package is capacity building to sustain and embed knowledge and capacity integrated resilient planning in all levels. The major outputs are publications in peer-reviewed journals, guides on resilience, upgrading, resilient retreat, and mainstreaming resilient, and upgrading and resettlement and urban development planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I proceed to the second presenter, Dr. Diwan?
Thank you, Dr. Raza. So as you can see on the slide, that the title of this presentation is like the project, Are City Climate Plans Adequate for Mitigating Weather Extremes, as weather extremes are increasing in the city areas globally. So we collaborated 4 institutes across Southeast Asia to deliver measurable outcomes that can actually complement existing sort of climate actions by government and cities. So there were 5 major objectives of this work, and as you can see in this cyclic sort of project activities, we started with the kickoff meeting with our colleagues from Southeast Asia, and then we had we have completed a series of milestones, and finally it was a final report delivered to the funder. So the major aims, as you can see on this slide, investigating the emerging patterns in city climate plans and policy practice gap, that is quite important to understand, and what are the barriers and drivers that can actually influencing climate change responses, what are the hotspots in urban areas, and ecosystem-based solutions, what ecosystem-based solutions could be appropriate to each city that we have examined, and finally willingness of the city dwellers to adopt EBS in their climate change strategies. So these are the major findings. May be a bit difficult for you to read, but what you can see here on the top graph is that among the 4 countries, they are mostly biased on emission-based solutions rather than ecosystem-based or land-based solutions. So emission-based solutions refer to chopping off your emissions from different sources like energy sector or from transport sector and so on. Thailand and Malaysia, they are generally focused on mitigation strategies, whereas the Philippines are more inclined to or more investing on adaptation plans, followed by Indonesia. And multiple factors like creating awareness, government incentives, and enhancing capacity are the most important features influencing EBS adoption. And in the second map, you can see here that the urban warming over space in 4 large cities in Southeast Asia, Bangkok, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, and Quezon City in Malaysia, in the Philippines. And in the last one, as you can see here, the people they know, city dwellers, they are very much aware of ecosystem-based solutions or nature-based solutions, but they don't know what to do. And there is a major knowledge gap that we have identified. And accordingly, we have advised to the city governments as well as national governments that these are the pathways that can actually help you to curb your climate change issues that you are facing in the coming days. With that, I'm concluding this one. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Diwan, for your very comprehensive presentation. May I move to the next speakers, Dr. Shakir Mayo and Dr. David Gruen.
Well, thank you, Dr. Raza. Unlike previous presentations, I don't have any slide, but I have a video to share with you regarding my project. To begin with, a Russian scholar, Lev Tolstoy, says that if you feel pain, that means you are alive. But when you feel pain for others, that means you are human. So our project theme was very much deeply connected to the cultural values. As everybody knows that the thinking and taking pain for others, it is derived from the cultural values. So in that background, I will request Jay to present in the video form the outline of our project, rather the cultural landscape of many different partner institutions and the regions involved in that. So here is the video for the project.
So this is the last part of the documentation. They have different areas where they have visited and interact with different cultures to solve to see the climate in a cultural lens. So now next I will ask to proceed to the last today's project presentation, and that is Dr. Indrajit Pal. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Raza. So this is about, this project is actually the interlinking between two broad concepts about CCA and DRR. I think you all know about climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. So these two are actually going in two different directions in terms of the policy, in terms of the plan in most of the countries. And now I think there is a drive also started to have an integrated approach for both CCA and DRR. So this project is actually talking about how in the development planning, especially for one particular road infrastructure, especially the public transport planning, we can utilize these two concepts together. So I'll just very briefly talk about the current plan for Philippines, what exists right now and following also, National Climate Change Action Plan 2011 to 2020. Risk management. So these two group actually should be married and it come up with some sort of synthesis. So it's also a bottom-up approach in terms of the community engagement, as Dr. Raja mentioned at the very beginning. So these two things will be reflected in the project in detail in the second section. But now I'd like to explain a little bit more about the broad objective of this project. Next, please. So there are three broad objectives in this project, which is about, because we have a lot of plans and a lot of policies, right? But we never go in very deeper about what type of policy we need to analyze. So this project actually will start with the reviewing the policy, what is existing right now, and then coming up with the synthesis version of that policy in the second stage, like how to mainstream. We are talking about the mainstream, but there is no prescribed policy for the mainstreaming. So this project also giving the outline and the framework how we can do the mainstreaming of the climate risk and through the vulnerability assessment. And the third one, like to develop the process to integrate. So this is actually a challenging job, but in the end, possibly we'll try to make it successful in a local level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. So we will conclude this session here, and you will see that these four projects will have enhanced understanding in the next session. So each project's leader or investigator will give you the milestone of the project and a little bit more details, which will be about 5 minutes for each project or 6 minutes for each project. And after that, we will have a small workshop, and then we will have a socialization outside. We have arranged a small refreshment for you. Please make sure that you mingle with yourself and exchange your cards and whatever you like to do, but don't do anything nonsense. Thank you. So I give the floor to our Dr. Morales to take the floor for the next section. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raza. So at this point, we will be proceeding to our second session for today's engagement. So currently, we have been introduced to a number of interesting research endeavors spanning different aspects of DRR and CCA from various planning scales. So at this point, we would be having the opportunity to learn more about these projects, starting with our LIRLAP, or Linking Disaster Risk Governance and Land Use Planning, especially for informal settlements. At this point, maybe I turn the floor to Dr. Stefan Grieving.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here with you for this inspiring session. I will dive into a specific part of our project, namely the activities on on-site upgrading. As Dina already figured out, the project in total consists of 5 work packages, but our activities from my team were particularly related to on-site upgrading, which, next slide, please, which specifically addressed informal settlements which are located in heather-prone areas along creeks, on the seafront, or in hilly environments which are prone to landslides or other mass movements. Why was our focus on informal settlements? Because nowadays, or urban development in Asian cities is still dominated by informality. The proliferation of informal settlements expands to disaster-prone areas because they are not in focus of official development anymore, since they are normally demarked as hazard zones, which means that official development is prohibited in these areas, and that in fact attracts informal settler families. At the same time, there's partly still weak law enforcement, which means that planning institutions are ineffective in regulating the land use in these areas. There's also a current knowledge gap in regard to on-site upgrading. I mean, off-site relocation retreat is a well-established strategy among Asia and also Africa, Latin America, but on-site upgrading is not in line with citywide development strategies. It is not officially acknowledged as an efficient resilience strategy, nor a priority for community resilience building. Our objectives were primarily related to improve communities' coping and adaptive capacities in light of climate change. And when I'm talking about communities, I primarily mean the communities of the informal settler families, which are living as residents in these areas. And of course, we wanted to improve the safety for these residents via on-site upgrading and on-site development. One very effective example, which is currently also on the way to be implemented in pilot areas, is vertical evacuation by constructing additional floors in flood-prone areas, which enables informal families to evacuate themselves simply upstairs. Of course, the project was also related to a knowledge transfer to other regions which are confronted with similar issues in Southeast Asia, namely in Thailand and in Vietnam. Next slide, please. Our project was inspired by an evidence-based study approach, which means that we conducted a series of focus group discussions with informal settler families, household surveys in the 3 countries, and also a community profiling for various types of informal settlements in these 3 countries. They share some similar characteristics. They are disaster prone. The population fears to be relocated by the local governmental units or by the central governments, and there aren't any livelihood programs in place. Next slide, please. As I said already, the locations are extremely flood prone due to floodwater, breakwater, dumping sites, steep slopes, and high voltage transmission lines, etc. And they are extremely marginalized and underserved in terms of accessibility, in terms of availability of public utilities. Also the building materials contribute to the structural fragility of the livelihoods, which are not only exposed but also specifically vulnerable to extreme events and their effects, which implies that there's an urgent need to integrate disaster risk management, climate change adaptation with shelter planning via on-site upgrading in order to improve the infrastructure and the livelihoods of the population, because off-site relocation is not really an alternative due to the fact that those locations tend to be very remotely located without access to public transport. There's also a need to adapt current building codes and construction standards in order to make self-constructed upgrading legally permissible. Next slide, please. Of course, as I said, we conducted some interviews and focus group discussions, and it became obvious that the major concerns and constraints are unclear role of upgrading in policy and also the fact that upgrading is still understood more as an expense and not an investment in the sustainability of livelihoods. Then there are also land tenure issues. Insecure land tenure hampers upgrading initiatives and also social preparation and policy issues, partly resistance by local politicians as weak stakeholder coordination and political interference. Okay. Thanks a lot. This is already related to the third session somehow, and there will be an introduction to the workshop anyhow at a later stage. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grieving. So at this point, we would like to turn the floor over to Dr. Dewan for his research on weather extremes.
Welcome again. With me, we have done 11 sort of milestones, but I have taken one milestone to demonstrate here. The reason being, we need to have capacity to integrate ecosystem-based solutions or nature-based solutions, whatever we term it. So, as you know, climate change in combination with urban heat island is creating a situation that leads to heat waves, frequent heat waves, and also you're always feeling hot. So you try to enter to an air-conditioned room to cool yourself. But each and everybody in the city, they do not have access to air conditions. They do not have access to cooling facilities. And Southeast Asia, Asian cities, they are not exception to this. And we all know that loss of green space, loss of arable lands, and those sort of things are actually creating these issues. So if you look at this graph or figure on the right hand side, you see that we do have an original sort of ecosystem which we have degraded, humans have degraded for their own benefit, and that can be restored. But how we are going to restore it? It is very difficult, especially those people are the victim of this sort of situation. So what we have done, we have run a capacity building workshop among city officials, local people, to demonstrate how you can integrate nature-based elements into or natural actions into your climate action plans, and then how you can restore your degraded sort of environment or ecosystem. Next slide, please. So you all probably know that there are principles of ecosystem-based solutions or nature-based solutions. It is not something that you get an idea here and you try to take it away and implement in your local area. So place specificity is quite important in this case, and you do need to have evidence-based research that can actually help you to understand what is the reliability of a particular sort of nature-based solution and how you are going to integrate what methods and what techniques you do have at your hand that can actually help you to integrate a particular solution to a particular problem. And equity, obviously, that is quite important and is getting very popular across the world because we do have different sort of people in the society, and we need to make equitable and equal sort of things for all of them, especially for disadvantaged and vulnerable groups. And finally, it is transdisciplinarity. It is not something that only one subject can or discipline can do it by themselves. So you need to have multiple stakeholders from different sort of groups which can actually be work together to gain more co-benefits, to get more co-management and things like that. Next slide, please. So I have taken an example of the Quezon City because we have done this exercise in 4 cities, but because Quezon City is one of the most vulnerable places that we have investigated, and you can see here in Quezon City we do have at least 3 to 4 natural disasters that are actually that the city dwellers are impacted. Obviously, heat management plan is getting very popular. Previously, it was not. No disaster management plan included urban warming, urban heating, but they are getting popular to include because we need different sort of measures for different sort of people. So heat is one, then the drought is a pervasive problem there, and cyclones and floods, these are also quite a serious problem in Quezon City. And if you look at the right-hand side, the urban warming pattern in the day and night. So the red one in A is the daytime temperature. So you see only the forest area is cooler, but the rest of the urban areas, they are very much hotter. And in the night time, you see that the temperature has no gradient. This means every time you are feeling hot. And when you are feeling hot, you are trying to access to cooling place. It can be public place, it can be your own house, and so on. But all of the people living in the cities, they do not have access to all these cooling facilities. So especially vulnerable people or disadvantaged groups or low socioeconomic groups, they are the most victim of this heat. And we do need to understand how we can restore the degraded ecosystem in urban areas, which or urban warming or urban heating. Next slide, please. There are many ways that you can integrate ecosystem-based solutions or nature-based solutions into the built environment, but I'm going to demonstrate here five key methods. One is green infrastructure. We are very much well known and conversant with this sort of things like green roof, trees, and things like that. Urban design is quite important. I mean, what my other colleague was showing is important, because if your planning process is not correct, then you are going to experience a lot of difficulties that you have not been anticipated. So this urban design include sky view factor, building materials, and blue and green infrastructure together. So if you go to Stockholm, if you go to Bangkok, you see that the cities are very much well integrated with water bodies, that water bodies can actually act as a very good thermal inertia. And finally, policy instruments, so like tax rebate system or capacity building or inclusivity and things like that. So if you look at here, next slide, please. Green infrastructure, it includes like vertical sort of greening system or sky view factor. Sky view factor is like you are trying to enhance your sky view in the city areas. And then next slide, please. Blue and green infrastructure is like include how you are integrating water bodies or how you're putting cool roof on your buildings, and also tax rebate heat management plans. And the next one, please. Next slide. So, so it is like an integrated approach that you need to work with multiple stakeholders. It is not something that you alone can do it. So we do need to involve more people to get more benefits, and that can actually help us to get co-management done and co-benefits done. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dewan, for that very interesting topic. So now, in the interest of time, we shall be moving on to the intercultural dialogue research that is to be presented by Dr. Gruen.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, and especially many thanks to Professor Tabassum Raza, who prepared this event so wonderful, and thank you for invitation. Yeah, this presentation is done by my very dear colleague and cousin, Professor Shakir Mahmood, and we had a 3 years project together, and the idea of this project was very interesting, that was invented, the activities 2015-16 in Nepal, where we were together, where we met the first time together in a DAD workshop we organized concerning bringing the livelihoods of rural people and nature conservation needs together. So we started to collaborate the ideas of this project very early, and then we needed some time to meet. There were some political constraints, and also we did not succeed on the first application by DAAD, German Academic Exchange Service, but I think the second proposal was accepted, and we could really start. And what you see here was the first basis, and what was especially interesting from our side, but I also think from the Pakistani side, was to better understand the challenges of climate change in future and protecting the climate, as well as taking into account the adaptation measures which are taken into account or which be realized in both countries. So in Germany, we have a more or less long tradition, but also very specific perspective, because we are an industrial country, and the main emissions are or have been in the past. But we very well see the threats of climate change, but we don't often see what's going on in other countries. And there was one of the topics what we learned from Pakistan, that it's concerning the output of the CO2 production is ranked 190 or 200 on the global level. but of being different consequences of climate change. It is range number 5 or number 7 or so on the global level. So very different from Germany. In Germany, we have even regions where we can consider that climate change will have positive effects. Of course, most or the main consequence will be negatively, but this was the very first step just to understand what is going on in other parts of the world. Very much linked to this is, of course, to understand the institutional setup on both sides in order to learn how is the sensitivity, how are things dealing. So just also to give you one example, we learned from the German side that the capital area, or not the capital area, the biggest, one of the second biggest agglomeration in Pakistan, Lahore, with about 13 million inhabitants, is tending to be increased in the next 10 or 15 years to about 30 million. So there is really urban growth there, and from a German point of view, that would be interesting to see how can the new buildings be adapted to better conditions, that we don't make the mistakes we have done in the past in the future as well. So the potential in Pakistan is much higher than in Germany to do this. And then we were a little bit disappointed when we heard from the chief town planner in Pakistan that he didn't even know about heating pump system, and said we fully rely on oil and gas and coal and anything else in the energy provision. But that shows you what is the reality between, or the difference between our discussion here and the things going on in the practice. Next point is then that we started to creating platforms and appropriate concepts for future action. We implemented a lot of winter schools and exchange between Pakistani group and German group and so on. And I'm happy the project has ended end of last year, that we in this frame can continue the cooperation, but it is also that we are striving for further fundings by different organizations from Germany, because we want to go more into detail, as I explained in the example of Lahore. And one aspect also would be the modernizing of teaching, encourage academics from Pakistan issuing gender equality, interdisciplinary training, and so on. I come to this in the next slide. So next slide, please. This is the way how we organize this to bring different types of groups of people together. We defined 4 different topics. So environmental approaches to climate change, social-political approaches, architectural and urban planning approaches, as well as innovative technologies. And we were forming different research groups consisting of people who are in the first step of their career, for instance, as final year bachelor students, but also master student, doctoral student, and assistant professor. So a mixed team, also mixed from both countries. And they were working about topics which were selected by themselves. So intrinsic motivation was used to get benefit output, because it was also difficult. Most of the participants, they were not paid for their work. There was a voluntarily work, what they have done. And we come to the last slide. And we see here a list of the different contributions covering different topics: climate change, adaptation through rainwater harvesting, the role of institutional arrangements of farmers' perception, water crisis, glacier receding, assessment of urban heat resilience in megacity, and so on. You can see all these details, and I will also show this was the first book we were creating in this project, and also another will be ready in a short time. And we have also plans to continue the project. Thank you for attending, and probably we have later.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gruendis, for the presentation on how adaptation and resilience is manifesting in different parts of the world, and particularly in Germany and Pakistan. So at this point, we will be proceeding to the research of Dr. Indrajit Pal on development planning and air quality, if I believe so. Dr. Pal.
Thank you, Dr. Morales. So I think as we discussed at the beginning, this project also initiated by Dr. Raza, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity also to joining this group for this project. So this is all about one city planning, especially for the local public transport. So I'll start with one particular context, the title of the project is like how climate sensitive framework could be helpful for city development planning. So the next slide, please. So we'll start with few questions, key points, like why climate sensitive framework is required. Because we are talking about the climate sensitivity. So what is the meaning of the climate sensitivity in the framework development? So the first part is like urban planning must respond to the climate change. Already our previous colleagues mentioned, especially from two projects from Pakistan and other places also like in Philippines. We got to know like there are a lot of requirement to address the heat islands and heat impact at the city level. So urban planning also should contextualize that climate change to respond. Second, the public transport is also one of the biggest emission process, like where we can restrict. So the one that vulnerable to the disruption also. So the all transport, especially in case of Philippines, we have at least two. Like urban flooding due to like storm surge due to typhoon and also for other heavy rain as well. And the third one, like how we can align like comprehensive development plan and local public transport to ensure the long-term resilience. So because that public transport is one of the area like where a large number of people are dependent, as well as also there is a lot of scope in a daily basis to implement. Next slide, please. So this project is actually formulated in a couple of sections. So the first is like in 8-step approach. So this approach actually what we discussed in the section 1 also. Like we'll start with the review of the existing plan. As we mentioned, like there are a lot of plans in existence. So first we need to review like what are the gaps in the plan where you can really need to address some of the key points. So in the step 2, identify the climate hazards. We know like there are a list of climate hazards, but what climate hazards is actually prominent in case of Philippines. Philippines also, I think all of you're aware about like in the risk index on top 10, number 1 and 2 sometime moving around. So Philippines in that context is number 1 and 2, which is not good, but we have a lot of impacts on the climate hazard, especially in the city. Third one, like evaluate the mainstreaming action. So this point is very, very essential, like how we will move ahead. The mainstreaming part in actionable mode, like in the next slide, we'll discuss a little more. Step 4, we'll talk about like identify the number of like project and progress and its action actually. And the fifth point is designing the scoring system. Like we can make some scoring system or maybe indexing type of process so that we can understand like this type of approach is good, bad. Or you can also evaluate or monitor very easily. Step 6 and 7 is actually talking about the result of this synthesis and recommendation to the city government. So this could be going in a cyclic mode, not one-time approach. So this could be decided by the city government, like what will be the cycle for 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. So that can be done. I'll elaborate more on step 3 in the next slide. Next, please. So the evaluation of the mainstreaming action is one of the key component in this whole project proposal. So the first part, like in this, there are 2 sections you can see. The left side, the letters are a little bit small, but I think still readable, at least from the front side. So mainstreaming resilience for the urban planning and development in the comprehensive development plan process. These are the few steps like involve urban planner, like our other colleagues also mentioned about the co-development process. So without the co-development with the respective departments, it's not possible because urban planning, especially for the public transport, is not the only one department who are doing. There are at least 5 to 6 departments who are involved in the whole process. So I think this is one of the key challenge as well. So putting the multi-stakeholder approach is very easy to say, but in the implementation is a really a big challenge, those who are implementing the project. So in this room also, I possibly those who have handled this type of projects in the city level, it's a real challenge to really mainstream in the particular context. The second part is like there are 5 steps. Maybe it's too short time to discuss in all detail. Maybe we can discuss a little bit in the next slide. Yeah. So this is the final like conceptualization of the framework for the mainstreaming, like how it can be implemented. It's basically a sectoral approach you can do. As I mentioned, there's a multi-stakeholder approach and multi-department approach actually. So on the right side, if you see the mainstreaming can be done in considering the social development, economic development, environmental and infrastructure development. So each of the cases, there are different departments responsible, and they are also having a different separate plan for each of the sections. So whenever the plans are going on, I think it's good to have a common platform to develop that, and that way we can do the mainstreaming. So with that, maybe I can conclude here. So as a next step, this project could be implemented in the Quezon city. So this plan is still going on, and I'm sure like Dr. Raja is leading that project, and thanks to Dr. Raja for initiating this idea as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pal. I'm looking at our schedule. We have our 5th lecture on Psych Nexus to be presented by Dr. Zahur Mahmoud Amen. So is this to be online?
Hello. Good afternoon. Dr. Zahur called me a while ago, and he's in the train. So he said he will just listen, browse the slides, and it's more or less self-explanatory. So I can just ask to move the slides here. So it's basically Millennium Development Goals, or you can call it Sustainable Development Goals. Can you go to the previous slide? Yeah, here, one with the, yeah. So this is good health and well-being. Number 3 is focused here. Next. So we are talking about the mental health and urban planning. Mental health is in local workplace or working place, especially in urban planners, remains unexplored. So there are not much studies have done in this area. Therefore, common issues in the countries, LMIC countries, low, medium income countries, undiagnostic mental health disorders and search resources, few studies in low medium income countries and Asia, ignoring indigenous sources, few attempts for cultural adaptation. It's not my subject matter. However, I'm just giving you the roundup. Stress in urban planners. So they said deadline, resource limitation, uncertainty, amount of information gathered, demand control, discipline, and multiple bosses. And next. So study proposal is a proposal, and that proposal as a part of study, the nexus of culturally identity, spatial form, psychological well-being, climate vulnerability, and sustainable development. We will examine the psychosocial well-being issues being faced by the urban planners in 4 countries, Pakistan, Philippines, Germany, and Spain. Next, please. So key areas of focus: qualitative study based on semi-structured interview, definition of stress and identification of sources, stigma attached to mental health issues, coping methods are used, organizational focus on mental health, the effects of cultural and social background, engagement with various tiers of the institution, use of ICT-based tools or information communication technology-based tools. Key findings, willingness to learn to improve the psychosocial skills, reluctance to simple tools, reluctance to share with contemporaries, tools which are related to work given more importance, for example, time management, problem solving, blame game, reluctance to accept responsibility for own well-being, delivery challenges. Next. And these are the challenges, consideration, real life setting, trans-diagnostic approach, work. Because Dr. Zuhur is a medical doctor and he is at the moment ambassador of Pakistan to Spain. So thank you very much. And later refreshment is sponsored by Dr. Noor because we don't have money for that.
So thank you very much, Dr. Raza, and of course to Dr. Zahur Ahmed also. So at this point, we would be wrapping up our our lecture series. Basically, what was discussed is how, for one, how risk governance and land use planning has manifested itself in informal settlements and what can we learn from them. And then we were also able to discuss how the opportunities and potentialities of ecosystem-based solutions in urban expansions. And then we also had a discussion on climate change challenges and adaptation from intercultural lens or perspectives. And then we also discussed climate sensitive frameworks as it manifests in development planning. And lastly, on mental health and how it manifests itself in urban planning, particularly in the promotion of cultural identity and the development of spatial forms. So at this point, it would be of value for us to have the opportunity to further immerse ourselves in the learnings from our lectures through a workshop. And this would be headed by Dr. Dina Magnaya and Dr. Stefan Grieving for us to have to learn more on their project, LearLab. So, and Dr. Gru and Dr. Magnaya.
We'll be having a short workshop entitled Strengthening Community Resilience in Informal Settlements. And let me share with you the workshop mechanics. Next slide, please. So the objective of this workshop, a while ago, Dr. Griving presented to us the issues and challenges when it comes to on-site upgrading. And these challenges, we believe, would require strategic actions and co-development of resilience strategies in order to strengthen community resilience in informal settlements. And this workshop will enable us to address the mentioned requirement. The workshop will invite experts, practitioners, educators, among others, to identify and co-develop resilience strategies in order to strengthen community resilience in informal settlements. And there's a need to focus on planning adaptations and implications that will inform broader conversation and discourse when it comes to knowledge transfer to other regions that would be facing similar challenges. And the output of this workshop will be a set of expert-informed, context-sensitive resilience strategies for informal settlements that will zero in on key planning considerations and outlining approaches for us to adopt and transfer strategies to other regions that are facing similar risks. Next slide, please. So the workshop entails 30 minutes to be completed. I just would like to highlight that 17 minutes would be allotted for the workshop proper and 10 minutes for the output presentation, which will be handled by Assistant Professor Christine Aspiras. And we have our colleague, Ms. Len Santiago, who will be serving as our timekeeper. Next, please. So this is how we are going to proceed with the workshop, step by step. The first step would be to access the Google form that will be provided in the next slide. And there will be online attendees who would be able to access the Google form using their form by scanning the QR code. And the online attendees may also click the link provided in the chat box. The second step is the filling out or accomplishment of the respondents' details section. The third step will be for you to choose among the 4 thematic areas of the workshop. And you will be redirected to the set of questions intended for your chosen thematic areas. And these thematic areas would be first, rethinking safety, standards, risks, and livelihoods. The second is housing as a resilience response. The third thematic area is adopted building codes and construction standards. And the fourth is community site reblocking plan integrated with local plan. The fourth step is keying your answers to the questions of your chosen thematic area, at least one. So there will be guide questions that are provided in its sections. And once done, please click the submit button. The fifth step, which is optional, should you have enough time, you may want to send another response button and choose another thematic area if you still have time. And the last step would be the output matrix where all responses are recorded will be flashed on screen. That's the last part of this workshop. And that will be presented by Assistant Professor Aspiras. Next, please. So this is the access to the worksheet, the Google form containing all the information that will guide you through the accomplishment from step 1 to step 6. Next, please. He will be flashing again on screen the QR code. Okay. And this is the workshop matrix that will be presented later after completing all the identification of the key thematic areas and the corresponding contents of this matrix. Next, please. So the set of questions intended for your chosen thematic area will refer to, first, how to adopt, implement your proposed strategies or strategic actions, which could be in the form of programs, projects, or activities. The second would be who in terms of the responsible entities for your proposed actions. The third would be the planning implications or the effects of consequences in the future, and the conditions could be opportunities or constraints that may propel the action or hinder progress of the proposed action. Next, please. Prior slide, please. Okay, so later on, we will be flashing the output matrix. We have our team that will consolidate all the outputs from the Google matrix. So we have our colleague who will be going around to assist you in case you have questions. So we are again flashing the access to the worksheet, to the Google Forms, and you're given 15 minutes to complete the workshop. Thank you. Funds are encouraged to participate in this workshop because we will be consolidating all the outputs coming from both the virtual and the physical participants attending this session. Thank you.
Online participants do we have?
How many? How many are they? How many online?
About 30.
20?
30.
30. Okay.
For our online participants, we only have 4 minutes remaining for you to complete the filling up of the Google Sheet. Thank you. For everybody, both online and our participants here at the session room in filling out the Google form provided earlier. So at this rate, let me give the floor to Assistant Professor Aspiras to present the outputs, the contributions of our participants to this workshop. Professor Aspiras, please.
Thank you, Dean, and good afternoon to everyone. And we would like to first thank both our online and on-site participants for contributing and providing inputs to the worksheet that was provided. We can see here the participation mainly from three countries. Three countries are represented. We have from Pakistan, from Germany, and then of course from the Philippines. So we thank you. And we can see that we are able to gather responses for all the themes, the four themes. So let me just read some for each theme. For theme one on standards, risks, can we, what will we read? This one is a response from the Philippines, no? Regarding standards, risks, and livelihood on the ways and means, no? Or programs and activities needed for this specific strategic action. There's a national program linked to the locality for implementation, for example, standards for building facilities for informal settlement families, and then who are responsible. Mainly it's the national government, local government, and of course the communities. And planning implication would include mitigating risks during disasters, in terms of flooding and typhoons, which are very frequent in the country. And for opportunities and constraints, we can see opportunities in collaboration in the different levels of government and the constituents, including possible engagement with international partners. Okay, that's for theme one. And then for theme two on housing, we have this one is from, let's choose another country. Yeah, from Pakistan for theme two. Okay, the participant identified low-cost government housing in CBD areas, and who will be the primary, the responsible or responsibility center would be the local government units, and planning implications. Well, there's a high demand for this type of housing. Okay, and that this one, the participant identified a constraint. No? There's no available land in the CBDs. Yeah, because these are all yes, fully built. And then going on to the next theme, which is on theme 3, building codes, perhaps from Germany. Okay, so at least all will be represented. Okay, for theme 3, on the specific ways, there is a binding designation in comprehensive and or zoning planning. And of course, the local authorities as well are being identified as mainly responsible for this, as well as the different stakeholders. And then there's a need in terms of protection of areas which contribute to risk reduction. And in terms of opportunities and constraints, there's a supervision is needed by independent institutions or authorities to be able to implement the specific strategy. Okay, and then lastly, on theme 4, community site reblocking plan, this one came from the Philippines. All right. Okay, so yeah, in terms of the reblocking plan, it can be done by means of incorporating the barangay plans with city plans as it has standard procedure for investment in terms of annual investment planning. Okay, and yeah, so the one that is mainly responsible for this could be the barangays, being that it is the smallest unit of government in the country, okay, and can be aligned with the city government trust or authorities. And planning implication would include planned sustainable development, and there are opportunities in environmentally sustainable plans. There's always challenge to involve communities in the planning process and constraints in available resources. So it's always one of the identified constraints, especially in the country, in the Philippines. So I think that's it. So we will not be able to read all of your responses. But nevertheless, again, we want to thank you for your active participation to this particular workshop. So now I turn you over back again or to Professor Grieving to have some comments and concluding statements on this session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for all of your insightful comments and feedbacks on our work. It is very valuable because of the variety of your educational backgrounds and of your responsibilities, considering your affiliations with academia, with governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations and the civil societies and the private sector. There's definitely a need for interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approaches that capitalize the variety of knowledge that is available throughout the society. And remarkably, attention is also spent when looking at your comments to the involvement of the informal settler families and of the local communities. We need to acknowledge the needs and the interests of the affected vulnerable groups in order to improve their livelihoods. That's definitely a key aspect of any resilient and sustainable strategy to deal with extreme events and to cope with climate change, irrespectively from the cultural and legal administrative background. I guess that is probably the most important lessons learned also from many top-down actions of central governments, which entirely failed due to the, for instance, relatedness of the local population from their place of land, and underlines the importance of collaborative and interactive strategies. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Griving. And that concludes our workshop. We are officially closing this session. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Dr. Griving.
Please.
Everybody.
Teilnehmer, es ist etwas ärgerlich, ne?
I will stand. You can come.
Yeah, one more chair.
Just can one chair from the.
Ja, aber trotzdem, ich glaube, es stimmt schon, was ich befürchtet hatte. Das ist einfach nicht so abgelegen.
Before we end this session, we would like to, there is a kind of assignment. If there is also another workshop following the Curtin University project, and in this project, that assignment is available online, and I would like to request Jade to please give them the mechanism of that workshop. This is a workshop on strengthening community resilience in informal settlements. Workshop mechanism is there. So this one is the previous one. Can you, the next one, please? The next workshop is Dr. Diwan workshop, the other one. The one with the kit. So there is this one is RCT's plans adequate for mitigating weather extremes and investigation of Southeast Asian cities. Workshop kit is available. You can go through this one, and there are also available charts and forms. There is a workshop proper. There are all the determinants are given. After browsing this, you can go and there is a one city example is given there, which is Quezon City. You can check the Quezon City as example, and you can fill up that what kind of green infrastructure is needed there. Is it a green roof, trees, and so on? So there are other urban design. You can choose which one is there and what scale based on the previous key, and you can fill it up for your own cities. And for that purpose, you can there is a form available at forms.gle. There is a link there, and I would request that kindly send the link of this kit to the chat box so they can have it. Thank you very much. So next, our last part is here is that we are going to conclude. We have all the partners here who are the custodian of all the projects. So with this, I would like to conclude this session and would like to give them a big round of applause for their effort. Thank you very much. So there is a refreshment outside there. Please go there and you can have your, what you call that, tea or... So for the online people, I'm sorry because you are not around. So we do have a refreshment. So we will be doing, I will trying to have some of the refreshment in terms of other people's. Like we will try to have 2 cups of coffee, one for me and one for you. Okay, Dr. Wolfgang, I will take your part of coffee, and Mr. Akram Mohammed, I will take also your part of coffee, and others will do the same. So you are considered here as physically part of our organization. Thank you very much and have a great day. Sorry. Yeah, let me have the photo shoot with the online, please. Can you turn on your cameras so we can have a photo shoot? Everybody, please come here. Zenon, please come. Sir, please come and join us.
You're our special guest.
Open your cameras.
Kindly open your camera so we can have a photo shoot. Please join. Kindly join with the photo here.
Please.
Ito pa sa ano, di ba?
Yeah, dali. Dali, dito ba?
Please come this way.
Join us. Part of the body.
One, two.
We're taking photo.
Das sind voll noch so Papier anwesend.
1, 2, 3. You can smile. There is no problem with that. Next slide. One, two, three. Attorney Seva, how are you? I can see you from here.
Yeah,
Well
thank
done.
you.
Thank you very much and have a very great day ahead.
Thank you.
Es gibt hier um die Ecke eine Stelle.